Hi, welcome back to Taken Seriously with me, Lauren Hopkins, the Managing Director at Grace. This podcast series brings you HR leaders to discuss some of the great work carried out throughout lockdown to engage with and support remote teams, the reality and challenges of the HR profession, and what the future looks like. Today I was joined by Rachel Ovington, who is the Head of HR for Corporate and Commercial at KP Snacks, who most of you will know as one of the biggest snack companies in the UK, home to some of Britain's most iconic brands. They employ over 2,000 people in the UK across 8 sites, including their head office in Slough. And Rachel's been with the company for over 8 years, where she started as Head of HR Projects for Business Transformation and progressed to HR BP for Corporate and Commercial, and then into her current role as Head of. She, prior to this, spent 5 years at United Biscuits as HRBP. Rachel, welcome. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Nice to see you, and thanks for having me.
No problem. Thank you for giving up some of your time to talk to us today. I've just given you a very brief introduction there, but for people listening, just paint us a picture, tell us who you are, what you do, and a little bit about KP Snacks, other than getting to work with some of my favourite brands.
Cool. Certainly. So I'm Rachel. Rachel Ovington. I work for KP Snacks as Head of HR for our corporate and commercial function. So I base myself from our head office in Slough. I guess I fell into HR sort of before working for KP Snacks. I've been with KP Snacks for 13 years. And HR was my second career. I was previously a chef in another life.
I did not know that.
Yeah, it gives you a great grounding. And through the course of time and lots of different jobs, sort of moved into HR 16 years ago. And KP is probably the third organisation where I've worked solely in an HR environment. And in the time I've been with KP, I've had 6 roles. So on average, every 2.5 years, career progression, which has been great for me in my career. And also it's helped me understand all of the different facets of HR and how they all come together for great business partnering. So, I've been really fortunate in that respect. So I moved down to Slough 3 years ago, having previously headed up our org development area of HR, and moved from a field-based role and a home-based role to a more head office base. And I did that for a particular reason for my career, in terms of ensuring that as I want to progress into the more senior leadership roles in HR, that I've got the relevant experience in a corporate and commercial perspective, and also from a comp and benefits perspective. So that was an area in that space of reward. It was something that I didn't have any experience in. So I'm continuing to learn and grow in that space every day as I think about my future career.
Excellent. So chefing into HR, what was it that made you want to leave that?
I found myself in a situation of consultation and in a redundancy situation, and that's what prompted me to move into HR. I'd worked for a hotel company. I wasn't chefing at the time, but I was a business support manager. So I'd kind of moved a broader people space in the first place. And the company I worked for got taken over, and we had a bit of a management buyout plan, and I was asked to be the HR and training manager in that presentation. That didn't come off, but I'd already started developing my learning and my academic space of HR and doing my CIPD and stuff. So I carried it on. Excellent. And it's true to say I've experienced what a lot of other people are experiencing at the moment, unfortunately, and it's it keeps you really grounded and keeps you really honest. In terms of the experiences that people are having, particularly in times like this.
Definitely. And is there an area, perhaps, I know you've said you've covered a lot of ground across HR. If you had to maybe pick one area, is there something that you're slightly more passionate about?
Org development would, if I had to, yeah, it would be an org development.
Yeah. And I'm always interested to hear people's perceptions of the HR function, particularly at the time, going back to when you first went into it and sort of left chefing. What were your thoughts of the people function at that time?
I guess in previous companies, what I didn't recognize was the strategic role that HR play in defining organizational strategy and business goals, and the significant part that an HR function can play to the success of an organization. It felt far more in a transactional space than, you know, and I guess as you get into HR and you learn through doing and you experience different roles, you know, and the more senior you go in that space, you can understand that the impact that you can have and really driving business success through your people strategies. And I guess when I was new into HR sort of all of those years ago, it feels like a lifetime, 16 years, but you know, it's I just wasn't aware of that at the time.
I think you and a lot of other people, and you know, I think people in the function have strived for years and years to try and showcase the value that they bring. I think this last 6 months has given people a really big platform, and actually people can see the value that they bring, which is great. And
yeah, absolutely,
which is fantastic. And I think if you were to be asked, or other people were to be asked now, your perception of the people function, it would probably be somewhat different than what you've just described 16 plus years ago, I hope.
Yeah, I agree, absolutely. I think certainly in my experience of HR, we are definitely seen as partners for growth, you know, which is great to be part of, you know, turbulent, challenging, uncertain, but, you know, opportune times for the future.
Yeah, and talking about turbulent, we can't ignore recent events. This year has been a year like no other, and hopefully we're not going to have a repeat. And I think the HR function has been certainly at the forefront of sort of navigating, you know, businesses through this storm that we're still very much in. But really keen to understand how that initial sort of lockdown period was for you, both on a professional level and also personally, as we were sort of thrust into home working.
Yeah, it's been an interesting time. So so whilst I'm based in Slough in our head office, I also have a home in the northeast, and that's where my family is. It's where I'm from. So I'm in the fortunate position to have two bases. And so until I guess the government announced lockdown, I was still working in Slough, and then obviously as the government announced at the end of March restrictions and stronger controls being put in place, I moved back to the northeast, and our head office has never closed, but recognised that actually in a corporate and commercial world, everyone is pretty agile and we can all work from home, and we've all got the tech, we've all got the equipment, and so it was really easy for us to move our business as usual to home in the first instance rather than be in the office. And I guess the biggest impact on me personally, when lockdown first happened, was I'm quite a tactile person, and so the lack of human contact was a real struggle for me. You know, I've sort of got a home in the northeast. I'm there on my own, but I'm part of a big family. I'm part of a broader family in terms of KP Snacks, and we're used to interacting and you know, and being physically present on a daily basis. And so that was probably the toughest challenge for me, to deal with that that shift. So it wasn't that you know you don't connect with people and you aren't talking to people. It was just more about the physical impact of not seeing people really was quite hard.
I can see that you're not there now. I can see the logos behind you.
No,
Obviously in the office now.
I'm back working. Yeah, I'm back working in our head office, and at the moment we have about 35% of our staff coming in through the course of the week, and again, we haven't changed our approach. If you can work from home, you should, but if it's necessary, or there's a wellbeing reason why it's better for you to work in our office, then we're also accepting of that as well, and we've made sure that you know, that we've got all of our COVID secure rules in place to help people feel safe and secure when they're working in the office.
Yeah. So just touching back on the fact that you'd obviously moved back up north, and we're living alone. How did you deal with
not so much sort of real isolation, but the fact that you're used to being surrounded by a much wider team. How did you sort of overcome the sort of lack of face-to-face communication there?
So we had to really dial up our use of technology. So we've had a lot of technology in our organisation, and it's come into its own in terms of how we've been able to stay connected and continue to talk to all of our colleagues. And I think I've got a team of 6 in Slough in the HR function. And so the first thing we did was to put in a 9 o'clock morning catch up, and it was to really capture all those little moments that happen throughout the day that aren't work related, your coffee conversations, talking about what you were watching on Netflix or the experiences that you're having, and all of those little things that really helped us remain human through something that is quite a burden to deal with. So and we kept that going probably for about 50 to 60 days every day as a team. And then as people have started to come back into the office in one way or the other, then we're starting to see each other. And so at a safe social distance, you can have some of those interactions face to face, which is great.
Yeah. And as an HR function for the business, what were your main challenges for the first, say, sort of 3 or 4 months of the lockdown period?
So we very, very early, as things were starting to shift before lockdown, we put a crisis incident management team in place. And that consists of senior members of our leadership team as a representative of our total business. And that included a number of people from HR. So myself, our employee health and wellbeing manager, and our HR director and head of HR for operations. So really representative of our people. And working alongside our health and safety teams and our executive team to make sure that as a business we could balance. Probably the biggest challenge in the beginning was patience versus pace, because we want to be clear, we want to act swiftly, we want to make sure our colleagues feel safe first and foremost, and well informed. But we also recognise that things were shifting on a day by day, hour by hour basis. So we didn't want to knee-jerk react into something that we then have to step back from. So that was our biggest challenge in the beginning. And we did if I say so myself, we did a great job in getting that balance right. Our colleagues tell us that that is the case through our communication channels. So that was our first challenge. Business continuity is obviously a one that is critical for us for a long-term sustainable future, and so making sure that we could adapt, continue our business success was really important. We are really lucky in the industry that we're in. We are far more fortunate than others, and we recognise that. And I think what was really important for us to do was make sure that we could adjust the way our business moved to satisfy the need of people in lockdown, because everybody wants a quality snack. Nobody's going out.
So I've had far too many.
Me too. But as long as you balance that with plenty of exercise, it's all okay. But yeah. We had to make sure that that we could adjust and adapt and be dynamic in our approach to business, and how we looked after our colleagues, how we look after our customers, and therefore what our consumers get as a result of what they purchase in their weekly shop. So that was a challenge. And then the keeping morale and spirits up and engagement high when we had a small proportion of our organisation who were shielding, and we took an early decision to shield more than the government requirement, because we recognised in our workforce that there were some people that might feel more vulnerable than others. So we took a decision early to do that and continue to pay in full pay.
That's great.
And then we recognised that on the flip side of that, the majority of our workforce are continuing to come to work. So how do we keep them engaged? How do we keep them well informed? How do we keep them safe? How do we keep them their spirits up? And what do we do to stay connected to make sure that we're doing everything we can for our colleagues to feel valued and continue to add value on a daily basis. And you know, and the challenge coming is how you do that as you go into winter. And that I guess that's what we're working on now. So we have 12 months ago, we introduced a communication and reward and recognition platform that we've called KP for Me.
Okay.
And that has been an absolute lifeline from a communications perspective. And it's really changed the way in which we have a two-way conversation as a total organisation. And it's very interactive. There are daily posts, there are weekly posts, there are messages of support, information, and the feedback that we've had from our colleagues has been fantastic in terms of how clear everything is, how they understand and can act, how safe and secure, and how grateful people are for the way in which we've approached the conversation of COVID throughout the organisation. So that's been great.
Great. Was that something that you had already factored in before the pandemic, or was that as a result of this that you put it in place?
No, so it was, we put it in place in July last year. So it was
okay.
Before, and it was in recognition that we needed to do something different for our colleagues and have a bit of a one-stop shop where you can go and understand everything you get as part of your KP deal. Whether that's about how you recognise someone for a great job, how you feel rewarded through the benefits and opportunities that you have to take advantage of in KP, or how we communicate as an organisation to ensure that we are well informed, up to date, engaged and proactive to feedback and suggestion and solutions for how we take our business forward.
So actually it was perfect timing. And lucky that you had this in place.
It could not have been better timing. So we did two things. Sorry, I've got an itchy nose again. We did two things, and we introduced two systems rather. So KP for Me, and we introduced a new HR and payroll system in the same year.
Okay.
Pre-COVID, and the reporting capability of our HR and payroll systems, and the analysis that we get in order to make the right decisions at pace has been invaluable. And the KP for Me, from a communication perspective, has made sure that we remain connected to our colleagues and what they need and what they're looking for from leadership in KP. So it's been awesome.
Perfect timing, because that actually, when I've spoken to a lot of clients, the switch, the pivot to keeping comms going, but digitally, has been one of their main challenges because they weren't set up to do that. So actually the fact that you already had this in place must have made it, obviously it's still challenging, but you already had this going for the best part of a year beforehand. So actually it wasn't so much of a change. It was more about sort of the messages itself that you were, I guess, getting out.
And some of our colleagues from a broad cross section of our business have talked about what a game changer it's been in terms of how we communicate. And again, how connected from top to bottom to top our organisation feels as a result in a time of crisis. In respect of what you might look for, that's what you would look for. In terms of colleagues feeling safe and secure, and feeling able to raise concerns or queries or solutions or ideas, feedback, you name it. We've had everything, and we're so grateful for that because it means we are one organisation across over 2,000 employees.
Yeah, and that communication, regular communication and transparent communication, has been just paramount for this, across this whole time. And I think actually when I've spoken to candidates who haven't necessarily had that, that's really made them question whether they want to be there or not. It's okay to not have the answers, but just tell your teams that. I think it's, if you think you know more than the average, perhaps being in your position, and it's still really daunting, it is uncertain, but to then put yourself in the shoes of someone who isn't, having all these government guidelines coming their way and isn't part of, the business continuity team or things like that, they're completely blinded and, have no idea what's going on. So that must be really scary, making people feel incredibly anxious. I think just telling them that, and regularly, so they just feel like they are being told everything. I think it's the thought of thinking that someone's hiding something or not telling you everything that does make people worry, and you just lose that engagement.
And we've been I guess there's an opportunity in any kind of crisis, I think, to what a crisis does is galvanize. You know, and in order to be successful through a crisis, you have to have a really high sense of purpose and a really high sense of trust, and that's what we've worked really hard to ensure internally for the colleagues that we already have, but also externally for our future colleagues, in terms of how we adapted our recruitment processes, and how we have also adapted some of our policies and considerations for people in their first few months of becoming part of KP, whether that's virtual inductions, whether it's you know, a shift in how supported people feel, and a buddy system, a virtual buddy system for somebody. So, you know, we all of our inductions are online. So, you know, I've got a couple of colleagues that I've worked with for the last 6 months, and I haven't physically met yet. But do they feel part of our team, and are they part of the KP family? Absolutely. And you know, and we continue to work hard, whether it's about our policies and our processes, or our ways of working, and our opportunity to connect, to make sure that people can still feel part of something great.
And that's so important. My partner's actually just started a new contract, and it's remote, and probably the length of contract it is going to mean that he probably won't ever meet anyone in the team, which is, wow, it's really unusual, but it is interesting to see the onboarding, and particularly as it's a global organization, it's hard. You know, the bigger the organization, the more people are there, and some people are really hot on the onboarding, but I think generally, you know, when you've got thousands of people, you know, and hundreds joining on calls, it's hard, and it is easy to forget that someone has just joined. You know, it's not a company of my size of 5. You know, if someone's just joined, one more from 5 is quite obvious. It would be slightly worrying. So there's no chance of them not jumping on a call, or, you know, not being sort of checked up on, just to check in and see if they're okay. But I think, having watched his first couple of weeks, it has opened my eyes a lot, actually, to the challenges of doing it, particularly if you've not been used to doing that. So what does this virtual buddy system look like?
So it's just about making sure that somebody has a key contact on a daily basis. So we would normally, and hey, do you know what, we don't get it right all of the time. It's not a perfect world, and we are trying new stuff every day, and those new ideas come from our colleagues, which is great. But we make sure that there is a virtual induction plan, and that is visible to everybody, including our new starters before they join, so they can feel secure in what is about to come. And so they've got an idea of how things will work, and we allocate a key contact on day one, as well as in the function, so you can experience what's going to happen in your function, and you can experience what's going on in a different function, because what happens in marketing and what the feel and activities are in sales, they could be different to what's happening in HR, to what's happening in finance, to what's going on in our operations, where people continue to go to work into site every day. So it's about recognizing that there is difference needed, really, and making sure that our new colleagues feel like they can voice and be really clear about what they need, know what they're getting, be clear about what they need, and making sure that it happens so they have a great experience. And sometimes we get it right. There are the odd occasions where we need to fine tune things and evolve things, and hey, that's pro.
Yeah.
But generally speaking, I bumped into not physically bumped, but I was somebody, one of our sales team who joined. He's in his second week. He's in one of our new colleagues, and I met him for the first time yesterday, and it was really nice to say hello to him. But you do realise that you know, when you do meet someone for the first time, that you know, you kind of think, oh, of course we've still got people joining our organisation, and the feedback was great in terms of the virtual experience, support, even though you're not physically with a team. The sense of team and purpose is still there, which is great.
Yeah,
and that's what I'm looking for at the end of the day.
absolutely. I think that someone's first, you know, few weeks, few months is so important to their career there, because you always remember that, not just for them feeling safe, feeling welcome, feeling like they are part of something, but when anyone starts a new role, that is when you ask, you know, your friend, your family member, your partner, how your first few weeks been.
Right, yeah, absolutely.
And how they then convey that to other people. It's all going back to sort of employer branding. That bit also is so important, because that could be really, really damaging if actually you started and you've just been completely left to your own devices.
Yeah, that's critical for us, because we want everybody to have a great experience. Every day we want everyone to come to add value and feel valued. It doesn't get more complicated than that, really. But for us, that's the whole employer brand for us, is that we've got 4 pillars to that, and that's about how we value our colleagues through the values and behaviours that we have as an organisation, how we reward and recognise people through the benefits and remuneration packages that we have, how you grow personally, so your development, and then and they're all as important each other, but right now well-being is critical. And so that's our pillar that, you know, we're dialing them all up, but this well-being has dialed up massively over the last 6 months, because our colleagues are worried about different things, and some have physical challenges, some have mental challenges, and we've got to make sure that we are there and able to support our colleagues and give them the help that they need when they need it.
Yeah. What sort of things have you been doing? I hope everyone has been dialing that one right up, but what sort of things have you been doing to look after people?
So we have an employee health and wellbeing team. They're a small team. They but they take a very proactive approach. They've been working very hard with individual colleagues who are extremely vulnerable, and also with line managers, to make sure that those people that are fit and well to be in work can continue to do so. And we have over 140 mental health first aiders in our organisation.
Oh, wow.
And that has been critical through the last 6 to 7 months, and they're really important anyway. But you know, that as an additional point of contact, when you have got people that are working remotely and you've got virtual teams rather than physical teams, it becomes a little bit more difficult to notice the signs if someone's not okay. So again, our mental health first aiders have taken a really proactive approach to doing that virtual check-in and making sure people are okay, helping us all learn and develop and grow our knowledge of mental health first aid, and how we can all do something to help. We have, along with our mental health first aiders, we've got over 100 values and behaviours champions that are really they're there to champion our culture and help the operations and our functions throughout our organisation grow and develop our culture. And so being connected, achieving together, and you know, and I guess in the situation that we've been in, maintaining a positive attitude through something that, you know, that has the ability to really get people down, has been really important. So our leadership is strong, our line managers are developing, and we've got you know, champions out in our organisation helping KP stay engaged and stay motivated and stay healthy through what's been a really tough time.
And having so much emphasis on that, and having so many champions around the business, I would imagine only makes people feel like it's okay to talk about it.
Absolutely.
You know, and that's
and
to be encouraged.
Yeah, absolutely. And also it's really empowered our colleagues to take some action. So we've seen a number of activities that have come out to the organisation to stay active. And some of our marketing team have organised virtual exercise sessions. Our employee health and wellbeing manager, he he had a personal health challenge, so he had a personal trainer. So we got him to come along, and in the middle of an HR all meeting, we stopped for an hour and did exercise and personal trainer.
Great.
And some of us enjoyed that a little bit more than, but you know what? We all had a go. And it's not compulsory. So but we didn't instruct anybody to go and do that. We liked and hope that we're fostering an environment where people feel like, do you know what, I've got a great idea, I'm going to have a crack at that, I'm going to go for it, and we'll see what happens, and we'll learn from it. And so that's been really helpful. And then tech again has been great in terms of an area of KP for me, which is about well-being, is not just about physical and mental strength, but it's also about how you might consider your diet, how you might use equipment, and breaking down some of the sort of barriers around, oh, well, I need all of this stuff to do a bit of exercise. Or actually, you don't.
Yeah.
It's how you help your mindset, and as long as you've got a decent pair of shoes and you're not going to hurt yourself and you've got a bit of space, then here's a 10-minute exercise that you can do. So obviously the body coach did a load of that through social media and things like that.
Gosh, he's done so well.
he's done an awesome job, and we've seen a lot of traffic through that we've got Munch and Move are two areas of our onboard platform.
Munch and Move.
Munch and Move. So we've got four actually. It's Money, Mind, Munch and Move, which give you ideas of how you can be well in all of those different areas, whether it's physical activity, how you manage your money, your mindfulness, or your diet in terms of what you eat. So that's been great to help people who are at home every day, maybe not used to doing the cooking every day, and same old, and being a little bit more creative around how they eat, how you stay healthy, and how you balance your diet and take advantage of the great products we've got, as well as staying fit and healthy, and and maintaining a balanced diet in other areas. So that's been it's been really helpful, and we've had some great feedback on that.
And you've got to do some exercise if you're eating hula hoops and skips.
I
know.
Yeah.
I know. Yeah, it's hard when you've been, I think when you're in the office, you're on the go. You might have somewhere that I know I do. I get into a routine. I go to M&S on my lunch, and I get probably one of two salads that I get. Very much like in my routine. But then when that routine is completely swept away from under your feet, you're at home. Actually, what's easiest is not necessarily the healthiest, and not only that, it's what's quick. You don't want to spend time, half an hour, creating lunch. It's what's quick, what's easy. And I think another sort of main thing when I've been speaking to people is, we haven't been going out, we haven't been doing that much. So people have, not that we should let go of ourselves, because I'm sure people did in the first few weeks.
You want to look after yourself, and you want to be kind to yourself, and you want to give yourself a treat, and all of those different things, I guess. And again, where we are quite fortunate, and some of our customers and consumers tell us this, is that we have some healthy options as well, so you can balance the indulgence with calorie or reduced fat or reduced salt or natural flavors, through some of the product range that that we offer in the brands that we've got. So you skips and hula hoops, but we've also got hula hoop puffed, which is under 100 calories. We've got nuts that are great for protein, and we've got some of our snacks like pop chips are popped rather than fried. So
I've got those.
I'd say that they're my favorite at the moment. And I'm very fickle. It changes every week depending on what you're eating. But it's great that we've got a range of brands and sub brands that help satisfy any kind of eating occasion, really. So that's helpful for us, because it means you can continue to snack but also maintain a healthy choice.
And whilst people have been doing that over the past however many months, how is business performing at the moment? Because I know when we had our initial conversation, it was so great to hear a company had actually not had to make redundancies, and in fact successfully recruited throughout, which was just great to
Yeah,
hear.
so I guess a number of things have changed. Our the makeup of our business has shifted as habits have changed, and so we've had to remain agile and dynamic to be able to satisfy the needs of our customers. Not without its challenges, but again, we feel really fortunate that and I said earlier that, you know, that people still are looking for a good quality snack, and we are able to offer that to people through the brands that we make. And so we've seen a shift, you know, into more sharing rather than single pack purchase. Meal deals, obviously everybody stayed at home, that kind of dropped off a cliff quite quickly. So we've had to reshape and reorganize the mix of product that we make and deliver on behalf of our customers. And in our people processes, we've adapted, and we've become a little bit more flexible, more dynamic. The use of technology has been really helpful for us to, and also trusting in the technology to make a decision to recruit somebody that you've never actually met was an interesting experience, and we've done that quite successfully so far. Everyone's, you know, has joined, and the feedback has been great. There are opportunities to do more and do different, but when you're in a new experience, that's whole part of learning process, right? So we've got strong and robust recruitment processes in place. Our recruitment didn't pause, and in some cases, you know, we've dialed up in some areas where, as you see your business shift, the skills that you need more readily, you know, change. So digital is becoming far more strategically important for us because more people are shopping online. So how do we develop that channel of our business strategy, and how do we make sure we've got great people in place to deliver that? You know, it's about working in partnership and making sure we can find great talent. Great talent can come into our organisation and feel great about the organisation that they've joined, and then make a difference when they're here.
I can't believe you struggle to find talent that are interested and are keen to join the brand, because it sounds like you put a lot, you know, you invest a lot in, you know, the people there, the experience that they have from the initial contact through to the onboarding, you know, and throughout their journey, you know, the growth, all the values that you focus on. So I can't imagine that it's a brand that you're struggling to find people, I guess, to want to be part of that community.
Yeah, and it's interesting. So about 5 years ago, we made a conscious choice to include people in the heart of everything that we do. So we moved people into part of our strategy. So we have a strategy wheel. It's made up of 4 segments, and they're all as equally as important as each other because they don't work in isolation. But one of those is to make sure that our engaged colleagues make the difference, and that is at the heart of everything we do, along with customers and consumers being partners for growth and a long-term sustainable future, and our brands mattering to people more. They all work together, and it's a real challenge for them to work in isolation. So we've got a really joined up strategic approach to how we want our business to grow and develop, and people are at the heart of everything.
And your existing employees are so important for your employer brand. It's not just what your brand is, what people say about you, and who, you know, talks about you more than the people who are already there. So and that's potentially where some companies forget. You know, they do this lovely branding and marketing, and, you know, great when people get through the door, but sometimes forget actually once they're through the door about the, you know, engaging with them whilst they're there, you know, trying to retain them. They're the ones that are, you know, the easiest way to improve your brand as a whole, and they've got to be remembered and nurtured and looked after, because it's the easiest sort of branding method, if you like.
And for us, we the heart of everything we're doing, whether that's about consumers, whether it's about colleagues, or whether it's about customers, is about creating happy snacking moments. And so, you know, our colleagues are seen as happy snackers. You know, and so we're in the middle of our engagement survey at the moment. So again, everything's not perfect. We'll get some great rich feedback that'll help us to continue to evolve and grow. But the great thing is we get the feedback and our colleagues are comfortable and confident to share what's on their mind, whether that's something great or whether it's about something that needs to develop further. So, you know, we are looking forward to getting our engagement survey results in November, but we also recognise that people are having a tough time. So we're not immune to that. So you know, it would be interesting to see at an organisational level and in the different areas of our business how people are feeling and how that compares to what the pulse that we're getting on a more regular basis through daily and weekly comms.
Yeah. How often do you do the engagement surveys?
We do an annual engagement survey. We're part of Best Companies.
Okay.
Last year, for the first time, we hit the ones to watch category, and that's been our ambition for the last 3 years, which was
congratulations.
Made it. So, and you know, and there is I guess a note of caution with COVID as to whether or not we can continue that. We are hopeful and you know, and positive in our approach, but we recognise that, you know, our colleagues might be feeling differently, and you know, we've got to take that into consideration.
Definitely. But I mean, it's great to get that feedback, to know that the efforts and the ideas and everything that you're doing is actually having an effect, because
yes.
If not, it's kind of pointless, isn't it? It's not worth it. You want to know that actually what you're doing is working, and to continue that way.
Absolutely.
So we've kind of gone back, we've looked at your career history to date, we've looked at the past 6 months, and I guess more from an HR perspective. So it would be great to look at sort of where we are now. And I think whilst COVID is very much still present and it's always going to be a focus, what was a priority in December last year and Jan that perhaps you wanted to get done had to be pushed to the side? March, April time had its new challenges. Now towards the end of the year, I don't know where this year has gone, but we are approaching the end of the year, and we're presented with a new set of challenges. You know, extended periods of working from home has meant that we've really got to continue to look at how we keep people engaged. Wellbeing, like you said, has been dialed up throughout, but will still be probably a big focus. And I think a lot of companies are looking at, with such a dispersed workforce, how do we keep this culture that we've worked for years and years to achieve and kind of remain? How do we work at that? So what's kind of on the agenda for you from an HR perspective at the moment and for the coming couple of months, other than the obvious? So
our overall approach at the minute, which is obviously part of HR, is 3-pronged. So for our culture and to maintain engagement, it's about keep talking, stay connected, and remember the good times as we go into winter. Not just the ones that you've had, but the ones that are to come. You know, which are really important for us. And from an HR perspective, it's critical for us to remain dynamic in our approach to how we support our colleagues and be open to the changing need, and therefore how we adapt the way that we work, the processes, the tools, the strategies that we've got in place that really help our business thrive. We've got to continue to remain dynamic in that space, I guess, is a priority for us. And I think the other critical part of that is continuing to be active and be an active partner for growth in KP. We have a long-term vision. We are doing and making the right decisions for generations to come, not just for right now, but for what our business stands for in 5, 10, 20 years time. So it's important that for us to remain focused on that. And I think really as we head into 2021, our key priorities, they haven't changed as much, but there's bigger emphasis. They're really dialed up in terms of how we make sure our colleagues are active through COVID, post-COVID, and as we look to what the world of work looks like after COVID. Our inclusion and diversity agenda is really important, and that's really important for us, because that's how we continue to develop and evolve and grow our culture as an organisation.
Yeah.
And so that is at the forefront of the things that we're considering for next year. And dynamic working, and how we learn from the experiences that we've had in COVID, and how we take the best bits of what's been great about a pandemic and take that into our business as usual as the future. So we don't just default to, oh, well, we did it like this before COVID, so we'll just go back to that. We don't really want to go back to that, but we recognise that there's, by the very nature of what we do and the way the world is changing, we need to be dynamic. So it's not about a set of rules. It's about some guidelines and some principles and some thoughts about how things might shift, and helping people feel comfortable and confident in the ability to work in that way when there isn't a pandemic telling you that you've got to. So that's the challenge that we face, and there are our key critical people priorities moving forward as a business.
Great. Okay, and I've been doing some soul searching recently. I think the last 6 months has been life-changing for everyone, and I think it's therefore a really good time to almost sit back and reflect a little bit, which we don't normally have time to do, but I think it's a good exercise to do. And I've certainly sort of looked back and learned a lot about me as a person, my approach to things, and perhaps sort of set some goals moving forward. What would you say have been your sort of biggest learnings that you could take from this, and whether that's personally about yourself or sort of professionally?
Well, it's a personal and professional one, actually, in terms of the level of resilience that an HR function has.
Mm-hmm.
I think a lot of the time HR for HR sometimes gets lost.
Mm-hmm.
When you are providing that level of support and guidance and partnership for other areas of your organisation. So looking after yourself and looking after your function, so you can look after others and support and grow your business, is critical, and has been a great learning for us. So level of resilience there, and the importance of the conversation and keeping that conversation going, even in the tough times, because sometimes people don't want to talk, but talking helps us understand what's really going on, and if we really know what's going on, we can act. If we don't, we run the risk of thinking everything's okay when it's not.
Yeah. And actually those, funnily enough, completely mirror my first guest on this podcast.
Oh, really?
To the T. Yeah. She called it topping up, which I really liked and took away with me. And it was exactly the same. Very often telling people, advising people, make sure you look after yourself, take a break. And as managers and as HR, we're so used to giving that advice. Very, very, very rarely do we follow our own advice. And actually,
we've got to role model it. We've got to be the role models for that. And we've got to be the critical friend, if you like, to help our leaders and our line managers understand that that's okay, and that it's that we're encouraging and almost expecting that, because it's what keeps the organization healthy, whether it's about your people or your business. The two go hand in hand.
Yeah, I think that's probably a common theme for a lot of people. But actually, if your role, particularly in HR, is the sole responsibility for the people and their well-being and everything else, actually, if you're not firing on all cylinders and you haven't had that break and you're not looking after yourself, you're not actually going to be in a position to look after anyone else.
No, exactly.
So you've got to, although it's hard, you do have to listen to your own advice. So, and I think a lot of people will have started. I've seen lots of people away recently, which is good, who I know have been working ridiculous hours and have not had a break. So that's been really nice to see. And I guess finally, what would you say your hopes for the HR function and sort of community as a whole, as we, over the next kind of couple of years?
I think for HR as a profession, there has never been a better opportunity to showcase the value that HR can bring to any organisation and to business in general. And my hope is that we continue to feel valued in that way, and people continue, and businesses and industry continue to recognise that we can be those really strategic business partners in order to have business success through the people that we have in our organisations. And I hope that that we continue to embrace technology, and that technology becomes an extended part of our HR community, because without it, you know, as the pandemic's shown, we could have had a very different outcome. And so I guess what I'm hopeful for is that you know, that that the technologies and systems that we use throughout HR, wherever you are in whatever business that you're in, that you can embrace that technology and it becomes part of your team. It's just a tech part of your team rather than a physical person.
Yeah.
And then saying that with not losing the human touch either, because that's what continues and will always be really important.
Yeah, definitely. Well, that's the perfect place to end. Thank you so much for taking some time today to talk to me and talk to others. It's been really good, and it's so nice to hear that as a business, obviously incredibly much values the function, and how much you value your people. And it sounds like things are only sort of on the up. So I hope business continues to improve. I will keep snacking as much as I possibly can.
And be a happy snacker.
I'm happy, and I'm always snacking, so no worries there.
Me too. That's great. Thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to be part of this. It's been great.
No problem. Thank you so much.